Hello, I'm Eugene Anangwe. Welcome to Road to CHOGM, a CNBC Africa special on the forthcoming Commonwealth Heads of Government meetings slated for June 20th all through to June 26th, right here in Rwanda's capital, Kigali. Our focus today is on the Commonwealth Women Forum, whose mission is to assert massive support and promote top-level policies for gender equality and human rights, while providing women with opportunities to interact with heads of government. Allow me to introduce our panelists. Today we have the Honorable Minister for Gender and Family Promotions, Honorable Jeanette Vaisenje. Also with us is Lucy Mbabazi, the lead Africa Policy and Partnerships, Better Than Cash Alliance, and Mubirigi Jean-Francois, who's the chairperson, Chamber of Women Entrepreneurs at the Private Sector Federation in Rwanda. Honorable Minister, I want to start with you, and I would love to hear from you from where you sit. In what ways will the Commonwealth Women Forum achieve its mission, which we mentioned earlier on, of asserting massive support and promote top-level policies for gender equality and human rights?
The key recommendation that will come from this two-day meeting will be recorded and also added to the agenda of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting as critical areas requiring the attention and support. So this will inform the discussion and decisions on ending gender inequalities for an inclusive and equal Commonwealth community. So this shows this influence on including these specific issues on the agenda of the meeting of the head of the governments, shows how this would be really discussed. It's itself a statement on high level, on the level of advocacy, which would be done through this meeting. So it means that the resolutions, the recommendations that would be taken from the forum will be brought to the attention of the heads of the governments for decisions. So and the follow-up, of course, for implementation. So I think that that's the way we will make sure that the advocacy is brought to the high level of the organization of the Commonwealth.
Right. Honorable Minister, thank you so much. We'll be coming back to you to just talk to us a bit about the good practices that you believe Rwanda will be actually bringing to the table for other participants to be able to take home with them at this particular Women's Forum. Let me bring in Lucy. Lucy, the organizers of this Women's Forum could have picked any other theme, but they settled on this one: delivering a common future, transforming for gender equality. And of course, this is where I wanted to also understand from you, in which ways do you feel this particular theme connects to the reality on the ground when it comes to women empowerment in today's day and age?
I believe it's a perfect thing. Equality, we're still far from equality, and that's why prioritizing women remains on the agenda and must remain on the agenda, based on the reality on the ground across this African continent. And I think in many of the developing countries, we still see those pockets of inequality. And there is no economic future where half or even more of the population is left out. When you look at the area that I'm focused on right now, which is on cross-border trade, the borders of this continent are dominated by women and youth, and yet these borderland communities are the most excluded in terms of financial services, digital services, and how do we expect that they can stand on their feet if they don't have the basic services that the rest around the Commonwealth have and enjoy on a daily basis to really achieve their full potential? So the topic couldn't be more perfect. The timing couldn't be more perfect, because this is the the decade of the African women, and I really look forward to seeing those outcomes that are going to take this topic from talk to real action, such that at the next Commonwealth Women's Forum, we have closed several of these gaps, or are well on our way to really closing several of these gaps. And this can only happen when we equip and put digital tools and really meaningful financial services into the hands of women, because with equal access to finance, equal access to basic services, I'm pretty sure even aspects of gender-based violence, safety, even when economies are fragile or situations are fragile, we can still have people living with dignified services and being able to afford the things that they need, or have the help that they need arrive to them as quickly as possible. There is no reason why women in Livingston or businesses in Livingston, over 10,000 of them have closed because of the pandemic, because of so much that happens as a result of these communities being excluded. So the timing is great. Everyone that needs to do something and can do something will be in the room. And I think in this Women's Forum, those of us who have the privilege of sitting at the table, the chair, we really need to carry the voices of the millions of women that are still facing inequality and bearing the burden of inequality.
I want to come to you, Madame Jean-Françoise. There is an illusion, or actually what some are saying, an increase in number of women in leadership positions, in managing or managerial positions, because in 2021, 26% of all CEOs and managing directors were actually women, and that is compared to only 15% in 2019. This is painting or pointing to a picture of an increase in number of women in leadership positions when it comes to managing businesses. But what more needs to be done? Because one of the things that is being touted or seen as a way of sorting this out is actually creating networks around women who are actually dealing within the spaces that are considered male-dominated. What is your take on that? What more needs to be done to see more women in managerial positions across the globe?
So, well, you said women participation in leadership position has, the numbers has increased, but there is still a long way to go, because the numbers are not yet on the level that is wished for. For example, in Rwanda, we have very good numbers in terms of government representation of women in the leadership positions, where we have being in government cabinet, being in the parliament, being in the among judges, or the gender parity in the education that is now at a good level. This is the result of Rwanda's conducive environment that has allowed equal participation, both males and females in decision-making organs. And further to this, women's representation in the parliament has also influenced and positioned the adoption of gender-responsive laws and oversight on their effective implementation. When we look at the economic perspective, we also have seen numbers of the women financially included growing. We have the Business Development Fund that has helped women to get more access to different financial services, whereby 75% of credit are guaranteed, and they also obtain 15% of the total loan as a grant for women and youth. And we also, as you mentioned earlier, one of the solutions to get more and more numbers of women in the leadership position, mainly in the private sector where there is still a work to be done, is by the creation of those the different networks that are there to support, being the Rwanda Women Leaders Network that is there to maintain and the contribution of women in the development of the country. We are being the Chamber of Women Entrepreneurs under the Private Sector Federation, which has the objective of connecting women and also advocate for them to make sure that their position in the private sector is well established and is growing with the, in terms of the income, in terms of the size of their businesses, in terms of them accessing, going into the business that are usually performed by men, but also in terms of them looking at business side in terms of being less shy to invest, less shy to confirm their position and their capacity to drive and make sure their businesses are successful.
Right. I'll pose the same question to the Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much for the question. It's true that's the reality. Though we are leading globally with a high number of women in parliament, 61.3%, we still see gap and low representation of women in other areas, including the private sector. Even in the local government, the numbers of women are still lower in some positions. So that's definitely the reason why we have a session dedicated to women in leadership. Actually, the theme of the session is women in leadership beyond numbers. So what do we see behind numbers that we are promoting to increase? So what the government of Rwanda is doing, it's not only in the private sector, but deliberately in the private sector. This has really been focused in recently because we've realized that much effort has been put in the public sector, but in the private sector we are still see the gap. We have recently revised the national gender policy. And one of the priority area of the revised gender policy that was approved in 2021 is to strengthen the gender mainstreaming in the private sector. So because we know that this sector employs the majority of women, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's above 80% of the women are employed in this specific sector. So meaning that we really have to bring on board the sector. Madam Francoise talked about the gender equality seal. With the introduction of this innovative program, we've been seeing the changes, having big companies, banks, tea companies, mining companies joining the program. So they have really been putting in place the excellent standards to promote gender equality and women empowerment in the business, putting in place ECD at working place, which we know is very important because when the woman knows that her child is in safe hands, the productivity also increases, because this has shown that it's not doing this in the favor of women, but also by adopting the gender equality principles, by mainstreaming gender equality within the companies, the production also increases. As the government, as I said, we've been working on the strategic level, revising the laws and the policies that were in place to make sure that the private sector is clearly engaged and targeted. But also to continue increasing the number of women who are participating, especially in these male-dominated areas. We've recently been working with the Rwanda Integrated Polytechnic Regional College of Kigali, IPRC Kigali, to encourage women to join the mining sector. We started the first cohort with 30 women and girls, and in total we'll be working with 60 women and girls. But also we've been working with the RADIGA, the Association of Local Government Authorities, to have more women in the local government. As I said, we have a good representation of women in some position in parliament, in the cabinet, but at the local government we still see gaps. Rwanda has recently made the commitments during the Generation Equality Forum. this is the latest gathering to speed up the implementation of outcomes of the Beijing Platform for Action. Because we remember in 1995 in Beijing, they have considered 12 critical areas where women were still lagging behind. But 25 years later, the world realized that we are still see gaps. So that's why they come up with gender equality forums. And Rwanda deliberately joined the Action Coalition of gender of ICT in gender. So, and for this, Rwanda has made commitments to be achieved by 2026, where they plan to bridge the gender gap in science and technology, engineering and mathematics in upper secondary level by 2026, is to make sure that we have a pool of young women and girls who will join even the private sector with that skills, with the capacity. Also, those are a few of what Rwanda is doing, but also considering this specific forum of Women Forum and CHOGM in general, I can say that we have been really deliberately engaging men, because we know we can't go far if we leave women behind. That's why we have one specific session that will be focusing on engaging men and boys in ending violence against women and girls, but also in engaging them in supporting women, both in other different sectors. So even though the forum is called Women Forum, it's not only for women, it's also for men, because men too will participate. And the broader idea is to discuss about issues affecting women, but men are going to participate to the forum to provide their support and insight on what needs to be done to empower women, especially in those male-dominated space. And we know that when we empower women, when we protect women's rights, we are not doing it in favor of women, because everyone benefits, their families benefit, the country benefits. Yeah. I like the quote put by His Excellency Paul Kagame in 2019 during the Global Gender Summit that took place here in Kigali in 2019. He said, "Women are our mothers, sisters, wives, and daughters. Whenever women gain, everyone gains and nobody loses." Right. So that's the reason why in the forum we have men who will provide their insight on how to continue to support women, but also as a country, as I said, there are different initiatives, interventions that are being put in place to make sure that the private sector is brought on board, but also the number of women in this male-dominated domain increases.
That's very important that you bring that up, the role of men and the place of men in this conversation. Lucy, if you're still there with us, and you yourself, you are deeply immersed in a sector that is considered male-dominated, and that is tech, ICT, monies, and all that. It must be lonely being right there, but how do we ensure that it goes beyond just the statistics, that we have more women or we want to have more women, but we translate that to full action in terms of the impact, especially when it comes to tackling the core issues that women understand deeply that continue to affect them today?
And I mean, like you said, the minister rightly put it, really men are the owners of this, equal owners of this problem, and in many ways are complacent in this happening. I think, culture, society, religion are a big influence on gender parity. And so looking at that statement that Minister mentioned from President Kagame, women are our mothers, they are sisters, they are daughters. Where there is intentionality and a priority to ensure that your mother, your daughter, your sister have equal opportunity as you have, then you are intentional in prioritizing women equality. I believe we have the answers. I believe we know it can be done. And I think Rwanda has shown that in government. If cabinet is 50% women, someone has thought about it and has made a deliberate effort to make that happen. The private sector, civil society, in our own families, because really that is where inequality begins. There has to be that decisiveness to ensure that everyone has the equal opportunity to reach their full potential. Indeed, the financial sector is a lonely place. But I trust that if we have gender intentional leaders like President Kagame, if we have the world respond to the Better Than Cash Alliance, Women, World Banking, and UN Women who came together to put together a 10-point call to action, it states very simply what needs to happen. What can be done. I therefore think that when our men, and equally the sisters who occupy the spaces of leadership, are deliberate and intentional every single day in elevating their mothers, their sisters, their daughters, we can see a real change. By 2026, we can certainly make it happen. We have to be intentional from the school, from the home to the school, to the offices, everywhere. I think that we should call every leader to action. We should put these things in their KPI. Every year we should have how much gender parity do you have in our organization? And really there has to be a reward for that. I think until we are down to that nitty-gritty of everyone in their KPI, if I may say, is intentional about it, or in our classroom we're deliberate about it, in the various sectors that are male dominated and where it makes sense to ensure that everyone has equal opportunity. We don't have a shortage of women. We don't have a shortage of women that have capacity. We don't have a shortage of women that have the passion. Now we need to seek them out, or where we do see them, ensure that they have the opportunity to rise up and be everything that we know that they can be, as we have seen from those who are occupying these spaces. So I trust that this Women's Forum that will include men, together with the women, will be able to have a clear response to the call to action, whether it is from the African Union or from the United Nations call to action. I believe that we can see some meaningful impact. Really, Imvugo Niyonjiro has to be something that everyone takes to work every single day to ensure that women are where they're supposed to be, while we don't forget our boys and our sons, our men. We just simply need to ensure that we lift up everyone equally to reach to where we are proud of the Africa we have and can build the Africa that we want. And really, women will carry 50% of that load. So we really must get it done.
Right. I'm about to start picking our closing remarks. And Lucy, I don't want to let you go before you tell me about the need for harmonization of laws to be able to execute what you're saying, and the kind of things that you wish to see happen across the geographical borders of the Commonwealth nations. This Women's Forum will be a platform where you'll be able to speak to heads of government through different ways, including a communique that might or will come out of the Women's Forum. What do you want to tell the heads of government as far as the harmonization and being able to operate across the geographical spaces of the Commonwealth is concerned?
It would be good if the 54 countries can collectively come together on 3 things. We keep it as easy as 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3 deliberate, decisive policy or regulations that they are going to enact in the next couple of years before the next CHOGM, or within the next 3 to 5 years, to ensure that this conversation of equality by 2026 is a thing of the past within the Commonwealth. We have good examples in the Commonwealth to make it happen. We have the leadership to make it happen. So let us have those decisive 1 to 2, 3 things that every one of the 54 heads of government will take back and action and measure such that the Commonwealth can say that in Kigali in 2022, we committed to doing 1, 2, 3, and we have achieved all of it 100%, or we're close to 100%, to where there is equality among everyone in the Commonwealth by that time. I believe we can get it done, and I hope that the minister will carry this in every room. But I think it really is as easy as that. 1, 2, 2, 3 things that they can do, or that they will do in the next 3 years. Thank you.
Right. Jean-Francois, I mean, what is it that you will want?
My one sentence would be making investment opportunities, partnerships, and integration in terms of regulatory framework really possible and possible to implement.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Honorable Minister, you have the last word.
Thank you very much. I think the key areas we want the head of state to take action on are mainly articulated around the 4 areas that I mentioned. The first one would be to urge them to increase the numbers in leadership positions, because when we are not where decisions are being taken, definitely they want to reflect your needs, your concern. So we want to see increase of women in leadership positions, including the leadership of the companies, as you mentioned. We want also actions in the area of gender-based violence that continue to affect many women across Commonwealth countries, including the sexual violence that mainly lead to teenage pregnancies that affect the dreams of these young women. So we want bold action in this area to see the violence against women ending. Economic empowerment, especially making sure that women are being included in this growing digital economy. It's very important. With COVID, we've seen that this is very crucial. The fourth area is women and climate change. It's also an area where we want to see tangible actions, bold action by the heads of the government. So I think all the action will be articulated around the 4 areas that have been deliberately chosen, because we've seen that women are still lagging behind and still facing challenges, especially in those critical areas.
Honorable Minister Jeannette Bayisenge, the Minister for Gender and Family Promotion in Rwanda, Lucy Babazi, Lead Africa Policy and Partnerships, Better Than Cash Alliance, and Mobiliji Jean-Francois, Chairperson, Chamber of Women Entrepreneurs at the Rwanda Private Sector Federation. Thank you so much for making time and being part of this conversation. Thank you so much for also watching and being a part of this special edition right here on CNBC Africa. My name is Eugene Anangwe. Goodbye for now.